Welcome to the Inspire to Invest podcast, where we're sharing stories from real estate investors and how investing has changed their lives. This episode of Inspire to Invest has been brought to you by Dijon Properties. Hey everybody, welcome to the Inspire to Invest podcast. I have a great guest today named Marinella Nicolosi. And before we dive into our conversation with her, I'll read a short bio and then of course she can fill us in on her journey as a real estate investor. So Marinella is a passionate, resourceful, lifelong learner. She's a proud mother of 2 children, and she is brought up by business-minded people who are both entrepreneurs and real estate investors. So she had a really rock solid foundation from the beginning. In 2019, she joined a real estate education network where she learned about various real estate investing strategies, among them being private lending. So she's a passionate private lender like me, and she's built a solid network of borrowers and lenders. And she also launched her own course in 2022. So this in particular is called Smart Strategy. It's a 5-step strategy that she uses daily to help her achieve great results in private lending. And she shares her knowledge of this and teaches others about this entire strategy with her Smart Masterclass. It's a private lending course based on the Smart Strategy, and it's designed for both passive lenders and active borrowers. And since my voice is not great, I'm going to pass it over to Marinella, and she can fill you in on her foundation and basically what life looked like for her before she really got into real estate and private lending.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, Serena. This is a real honor to be here, and knowing that you also are a private lender, it's nicer to connect with the other private lenders. The reason why I started private lending is because I wanted to increase my income. And when I found out that I could use my own money to fund projects and I didn't have to do anything else, like being a passer, just having my money working for me, to me, that was like a godsend strategy because at that point I had I have 2 kids, I am a single mother, I had a full-time job, and I did not have time to search for properties, and I didn't want to deal with tenants. So, and I've done a lot of flips throughout my life, so I know what it means to deal with the contractors, and I didn't really want to do any of that.
Yeah.
So, when I discovered the private lending strategy and I could actually increase my income with that,
Yeah.
it really opened up a whole new world for me. And I'm happy to share my story because there's a lot of people out there who have no idea they can access, let's say, the equity of their home, or
Yeah.
that they might have registered funds they're sitting in investments that are doing next to nothing, or they're even losing money,
Yeah.
and they can put them to work with private lending and
Yeah.
make some really good gains with it.
Yeah.
As as a private lender, you know that you can generate a minimum of 8 to 10% on any first position mortgage,
Yeah.
right? So those are really great returns, and depending on the risk of the investment, you can generate even more, and depending
Yeah.
on how experienced you are as a private lender. But I usually say, if you're just starting, make sure you educate yourself,
Yeah.
and then start small and slowly, and usually with a secured investment, which helps you. It gives you a little bit more security.
Yeah. Now, for anyone out there that's watching that may not know a lot about private lending, can you outline what that means to be in a secured investment, first position, second position, unsecured, just so that they understand what those different models look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So for those ones who are new to private lending, first of all, as a private lender, you become the bank. And private lending means that you are lending your own money as an individual or as a corporation, or like as an entity, to other individuals or corporations or any other entity. There's different legal structures that can be done. So and at that point, as a private lender, you have your funds. Let's say you have, you have cash that you can invest, and because you are the bank, you're gonna have to do a whole due diligence process, right? And vet your borrowers, vet the project. When you're satisfied with it, you can invest in mortgages. So mortgages come in a first, second, or third position. And first position is where you are on title on the actual real estate asset, and when you are on a second position, it means that the person who are on title on a first position, when it comes to repaying the mortgage or the loan, when the person in first position has priority over the second position or the third position. And that's how it works. So if you are in second position, you come second to be paid, which
Yeah.
means it's a little riskier, because if, for example, there isn't enough money within the deal,
Yeah.
you risk not to be paid
Yeah.
back your loan. And
Yeah.
so as a private lender, you're gonna have to make sure that that there is enough equity, or there is enough that the borrower has the capacity to repay you
Yeah.
from other sources if there isn't enough money within the deal. So, and those
Yeah.
are the things that you need to check. As
Yeah.
an unsecured, usually, you do basically promissory notes or loan agreements, and those ones are a lot riskier, because at that point you have no idea where you stand within the lineup of
Yeah.
all these lenders. So again, that means that you have to do your due diligence before. You
Yeah.
can ask the borrower exactly where you stand in line. Is there 100 promissory notes, or there is maybe two or
Yeah.
eight or five, or where are you within that project? Where do you stand in line?
Yeah.
That will tell you the risk also. The risk is calculated in many different ways, right? There is a whole risk management, strategy that you have to put in place as a private lender. And it isn't just knowing the loan to value. It isn't just knowing, the exit strategy. There is a whole process that you need to put in place as a private lender to understand the risk of the investment itself, and understand the risk that you are putting within also the borrower itself.
Yeah.
Is it a risky borrower or not?
Yeah.
So those are all things that you need to do. So again, you have to implement those risk management strategies that
Yeah.
will help you eliminate or reduce your risk. And because private lending, honestly, it's all about prevention. Because
Yeah.
once you are in court, it's way too late. You never want to end up in court, because
Yeah.
at that point there is a lot of fees, or legal fees, and which you may not ever recover.
Yeah.
Depending on the loan, you might not even be able to get your money back. So
Yeah.
it's so like I said, you want to implement those risk management strategies before, do really good due diligence on the borrower, the project, the market analysis. There's a whole lot of things that you can do to
Yeah.
prevent. There's a lot of documentations that you need to ask as well. I am very often, I feel like a lot of people take private lending lightly, because you need to really know your borrower really well, and you need to dig. And for those borrowers who are not an open book, just walk away, because
Yeah.
it's not worth it. If
Yeah.
they're willing to share about themselves, and their capacity to repay the loan, and the net worth, and there's a lot of information that you can get from them, then work with them, because then they're open to share if they're really worthy to get your
Yeah.
money, right? Because they
Yeah.
have to read a good borrower is those borrowers who will take responsibility for your money,
Yeah.
and they do not just take your money and be happy with that. Okay,
Yeah.
so you as a lender really need to find those borrowers who are trustworthy and take
Yeah.
responsibility for the loan that you're giving.
Yeah.
As a borrower, I can say you also have to make sure you do your diligence on your lender, because
Yeah.
you need to know where the money comes from.
Hmm.
It could be anyone who has maybe doing money laundering, right? So you don't want that. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
I think there
So
is a lot to know in that respect. And I think one thing just from that perspective of a lender is that a borrower is not necessarily going to hand everything over to you, but if there's extra due diligence that you want, then you can always ask for that stuff, right? Like proof of insurance, credit checks, asking to see who else is on title, like backup documentation that they own the property. There have been some instances with what I've loaned to where there's other people on title. So I've said, well, I'm not comfortable signing this unless everyone's in the agreement and I have information on everybody. Because at the end of the day, like they're obviously all parties if that's the case.
yeah,
So I think it's always better to do more than less. Obviously, have legal representation. But when you look
absolutely.
back now, like obviously your parents were real estate investors and entrepreneurs, but you've only been doing this now for about 4 years. So what was that catalyst where you were like, I want to change things and kind of take advantage of some of these things that are out there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually, when I was growing up, I didn't really want to have anything to do with real estate. I even told my parents not to, because they had a lot of properties,
Yeah.
not to leave me anything. I honestly told them, don't really like just give it to my sisters.
Yeah.
And they obviously did not. But it's yeah, growing up because I could see their, they it was because they were active investors. It involved a lot of work.
Yeah.
And so, but at that point, because I inherited a whole bunch of money and um, I felt the responsibility, honestly, because I saw my parents working really hard throughout their
Yeah.
life. And I had this money and I had properties in Italy. Well, they're my parents' property, but they left it to me and my sisters, and we had to, figure things out, right? So I felt really responsible because they worked really hard and they left us all this stuff and this wealth. And at that point, I felt like I knew nothing. So I didn't want to waste the money
Yeah.
because you can lose your money really fast if you're not educated.
Yeah.
So at that point, I felt I needed the need to educate myself. And so I invested in myself. I believe in education
Yeah.
first. I don't get into something unless I know the ins and outs of whatever strategy I'm doing, for
Yeah.
whatever type of business I'm doing, really. And so I educated myself. When I felt comfortable, I started investing, and since then, and not only I also had the need to increase my income,
Yeah.
and I wanted to, because of my parents. Like I said, they worked really hard, but then they fell sick and they died within like a year and a half from each other. That was a little bit of a shock for me because I saw them. Not be able to enjoy their life at the end, right? And when they were ready to retire and they were ready to enjoy life, their life was cut short.
Yeah.
So I saw also in private lending the opportunity to not only increase my income, but also enjoy my life now at this
Yeah.
moment, this present moment.
And
I don't
you're not
wait.
working like a regular job anymore, right?
I left my job. However, I'm actually considering to going back, to be honest.
Yeah.
The reason is because I miss the interaction. I miss work.
Yeah.
I work in the school system, and I miss my students. I miss talking to my like I I specialize in behavior and I specialize in mental health, and I miss helping those little kids because I work in elementary school, and honestly, they are the most precious thing that you can have around you because they really feel your heart, and I really miss that part and
Yeah.
the interaction also with my colleagues. So I am considering to going back because of that reason. However, um, I with private lending, I was able to become financially independent,
Yeah.
and it gives me the opportunity to decide whether I want to work or
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. I
Honestly,
think that's the thing.
it's
It's
really
really powerful in the sense that, even for me, like I didn't necessarily choose to leave my job. Like I had my own business, but COVID happened. So I couldn't actually run my company anymore. And fortunately, I'd found private lending prior to that, and I'd been doing it already, but I was able to increase it relative to the fact that I couldn't work and I had more money that I could invest. But like you, I think that it's important to have that sense of purpose and fulfillment in whatever it makes sense for you. So I think if you are passionate about the children, like that's something you can do. For me, I found that I love sharing this message just because it's so powerful and people don't realize what's out there, just how many options there could be. So oftentimes after you've shared this message, people reach out and they're like, how do I do this? I need this. And you know that you're having that positive impact and kind of sharing that message, right? Now,
absolutely. And that's why I'm here because it's important to learn about other people's experiences and what they've done in life and what options are out there.
yeah.
Because as a private lender, you can still do your work. If you have a full-time job which you
Yeah.
love, you can still do it and you don't have to leave your job because really it's your money now, it's
Yeah.
working for you. You
So
don't
you have
have
options.
You have lots of
Yeah,
options, and that's why it's important to learn about what other people are doing and be
yeah,
open, have an open mind,
yeah,
because you can learn from so many other people out there who have done really well with
yeah,
whether it's real estate or any other strategy.
yeah,
And why not? Why not learn from others
yeah.
who have been successful?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, obviously, you've taken a bit of a different path. It's been on the more passive side. When you look back now at the last few years, like what would you attribute your greatest success? Would it be like just having the ability to leave your job, or would there be something else that comes to mind?
Honestly, my success is the ability to really decide what my schedule is. I am very detached when it comes to money. I'm not chasing money, and I'm not attached to money. I have a very detached approach to it. I use money as a tool to help me live a good life. So for me, the best success was to be able to enjoy the people in my life, to be able to decide whether I want to go back to work or not, to be able to be in charge of my own time, honestly.
Yeah,
The money is a secondary thing. And honestly, money when you die is not coming with you. It's left behind. Whatever property you have, again, it's not coming with you. It's you leave it behind you. So unless like live your life now, like
yeah,
honestly enjoy your life now while you can.
yeah,
So for me the success, private lending is giving me that success,
yeah,
because it's about being able to enjoy the people, enjoy the things that you want to do. Like I love dancing, right? I love traveling, I love
yeah,
discovering other cultures, and I want to do those things more and more,
yeah,
right? And this is what I'm an artist, and I really miss going, like being able to find the time to paint or do the techniques that I like to implement, as an artist.
yeah,
So those are the things that I want to enjoy.
yeah,
And that's why I love private lending, because it's giving me the opportunity to now really enjoy my life now and
yeah.
not when I retire. To me, retirement, it doesn't even exist.
Yeah, I think
Honestly,
it's just a mindset shift, right? And a lot
it
of people
is.
that I've even talked to, like they retire and then they either go downhill or they go back to working because they need that sense of purpose every day. But that said,
Exactly.
we're just going to take a really short break just for a word from our sponsors.
The Dijon vision is to add value and create beautiful spaces that make a positive impact. We transform homes and lives and believe that everyone deserves a beautiful home.
Thanks again for following along with this episode of Inspired to Invest. In addition to real estate, investing, and running my own brand experience agency for 18 years, I also published a book called The Accidental Entrepreneur in October of 2021. This is my story, and it chronicles how I turned tragedy into triumph to embrace my destiny in entrepreneurship. If you're interested in picking up a copy, you can find the link at serenahomesrealtor.com, and you can also find my link tree with all of the retailers in the details below. Thanks again for your support. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Inspired to Invest. I have Marinella Nicolosi here talking about private lending and how she's taken this approach to real estate investing. Now, we talked about the success that you've had. I want to touch now on any challenges or obstacles that you've experienced in the last few years since you started going down this path.
Yeah, some of the challenges is finding, I would say, the right investments right now, like during these actually really hard times. I had to rethink my whole investment strategy, like my lending strategy. And because within the last year or so, I find that there has been a lot of borrowers who have been struggling because of the hike of the interest rates,
Yeah.
and also all the there's a lot of new laws in place. There's a lot of restrictions that the governments have put in place, which
Yeah.
has made things really hard for borrowers and any active investors. So I noticed that really the risks have gone up a lot. And I can tell you that even though the interest rates have gone up in general, borrowers haven't really understood that the risks have gone up as well. And so a lot of borrowers haven't really upped the game and rewarding the lenders appropriately, to be honest with you. So I see that a lot of the rates are still very low compared to where they should be compared to the risk.
Yeah.
And this is something that puzzled me because because the risk has gone up, but the borrowers are not really raising their rates either.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I think what I've seen as well, like I've been fairly fortunate. Like there's one mortgage broker that I work with, and they have NSF fees in place. So if they do pay late, that fee could range from $100 to $250. So there are a few borrowers that have consistently paid late. And I kind of look at it like they're still paying, but they're paying like a week or two late consistently. But then I've made like a lot more money because of it. But it begs the question, like at what point will be their breaking point, right? Like will there be a time where they really struggle, or maybe they have to sell off a bit of their portfolio? But I think that's where it's important to understand the full picture with them, that they have an asset that they could sell to take care of those debts, right? So just trying
that's
to understand.
exactly it. However, I have to say that as a borrower, you need to work your numbers before.
Yeah.
And you need to calculate those risks before. And that's what I see, that a lot of borrowers are not
Yeah.
foreseeing things. They are not really implementing a lot of the preventative measures that they're supposed to. And that's where I feel that the risk gets higher because they are not
Doing their due diligence.
they're not
themselves.
they're not doing really proper due diligence. They're not putting the measures in place to
Yeah.
prevent those
Yeah.
downfalls, right? So those are the things that I see. But in general, I mean, honestly, there's a lot of great borrowers out there. There's a lot of people who know what they're doing, and sometimes you cannot see downfalls.
Yeah.
There are things that you cannot control,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
absolutely that can happen. However, there's a lot of things, a lot of measures that you can put in place as a borrower, and contingency funds, or there's a lot of pre-planning that you can do, and
Yeah.
and if you really understand the risk of the projects, of the investment that you are in, and if the numbers really work,
Yeah.
and you know that you have to, if you already plan to give a certain amount of money, certain percentage to your lender, and the numbers work,
Yeah.
you create those win-win situation. But it's
Yeah.
those cases where the borrower wants to um, make the deal work at the expense of the lender, which I'm not very happy about.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. I mean, I have heard of isolated situations where things have happened where maybe a borrower defaulted on a property and things like that. But I wouldn't say it's overly common. Like most of them
Yeah.
have integrity. They put their lenders first. They don't even take a hit or go break even because they
Yeah.
don't want to compromise on their reputation and their ability to service future projects, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of great borrowers out there. But I have met a few who are not really
Yeah,
thinking for the lender, protecting
yeah.
the lender. They're just
Oh, I'm
thinking
sure there
about
are for
themselves.
sure.
So just be aware of those as well,
Yeah.
because you can say no, right?
Yeah, I mean, and trust your instincts, right? Like there's been some that I've talked to, and just based on how they communicate, it's like you just immediately get that feeling, right? So I think you just have to make
Absolutely.
sure that you're looking out for yourself and it's aligned with everything you're looking for as well.
Yeah,
You talked a lot
absolutely.
about educating yourself. What do you think is some of the best advice that you've received?
To be cautious, and to, again, to do a lot of screening. Understand who the borrower is. I find that
Mhm.
it's important to invest in people more than the money itself.
Yeah,
To me, it's there are people who are like, yeah, but I don't want to make friends. You don't have to make friends. You just need to understand where the relationship stand
yeah,
with the borrower, and if they're if they have the capacity to repay the loan, if
yeah,
they You know, you have to establish a working relationship,
Yeah.
right? That's what you have to establish, a working relationship. Whether you become friends or not, that's a different level of things.
Yeah.
But you have to establish that working relationship also, because if you're not an accredited investor, you have to. If you fall within the family and friends and you meet somebody for the first time, you cannot invest with them because you're not a friend
Yeah.
when you meet them the first time.
Yeah.
So those are the things that you need to understand. There are laws in place as well.
Yeah.
And if you want to be part of this game, you have to respect the laws as well.
Yeah.
And you need to know what they are, what the rules are.
Yeah.
And so those are the things that you need to really understand. That's why you have to educate yourself.
Yeah. No, I
Because
think
there
that's
are
smart.
rules in place and you need to respect them if you want to, do well.
Yeah, no, agreed. Now, obviously, we talked about your course, but can you share a little bit more information about what's involved in that for someone that could be interested?
Yeah, so my private lending course, the Masterclass, is a comprehensive course. So it teaches you everything really about private lending, and especially on the due diligence side of things, because there is a lot of documentations that you can request. There is a due diligence checklist that you can basically need to do in order to protect yourself. And so it's both for, I would say, beginners, for someone who knows nothing about private lending, but it's also for active investors, borrowers, or anyone who is already has some kind of experience. The reason is because with my course, I really give you a really good perspective on the lender side of things.
Yeah.
And this is what a lot of borrowers miss. This is what I find, that a lot of borrowers do not understand what the lenders really want. So by taking my course, you become very attractive borrower, because now you're putting yourself in the shoes of the lender. You know exactly what to give to them and how to present your deals as well.
Yeah, no, I
So
think that's smart.
I teach about private lending. I also teach about mindset, the growth mindset. It's very important to have a strong mindset and understanding how to deal with any, problem that may arise, because problems will always arise if
Yeah.
you are a private lender or a borrower. So you need to know how to deal with that. And we also talk about you as a person or as a professional, and we talk about skills. What are the skills that you already have, and which are the ones that you can, need to develop? Because what I noticed that I've throughout all my life, like I said, I believe in education. I've developed a lot of skills, and every skill that I developed, it really came handy to my, to contribute to my success.
Yeah.
And so I always try to let people understand, okay, what is that you have to offer to yourself and others. So I help them reflect. So, and also I teach about the basics of marketing and design, because honestly, I feel that a lot of people fail in that. You have to, whether you are like a private lender, or a borrower, or any investor, you need to present yourself. You need to know how to present yourself. You need to establish your own reputation, your credibility. If you don't know how to do it, nobody's gonna believe you, and nobody's gonna be attracted by you, right? So everybody, honestly, everybody knows my name. A lot of people already know me when they say, "Oh yeah, the private lending queen. This is Marinella Pelosi," right? Why I did that? It didn't like happen overnight. I established myself, my own reputation, my credibility, and how I did that through marketing, right? So
And it's how you ultimately branded yourself, right?
That's right. How you brand yourself. If you don't know that, then you fail. Like, you are not going to be able to attract anybody. You're not going to be able to put yourself out there.
Yeah, no, I think that makes perfect sense. Now, obviously, you've had quite the journey so far. Are there any quotes that you find that really motivate you or inspire you?
Yeah, actually, you know what? I found one, which just yesterday, from Leo Tolstoy, is once we are thrown off our habitual paths, we think all is lost, but it's only here that the new and the good begins. And it's totally true, because sometimes we need to a reset. We need like a reset in life to grow even more. And sometimes I would say that most of the times, actually, if something bad happens or a setback happens,
Yeah.
it really helps you reflect on understanding the mistakes that you made,
Yeah.
and help you grow even further, and help you become a much stronger person than before.
Yeah.
So, and I have to say that every mistake that I've made in the past, um, you have to face it. And unless you face your mistakes and you understand, instead of dwelling on it, just move on, because
Yeah.
that's where your learning is happening, right?
Yeah.
Don't dwell on it, just learn from it and move on.
Yeah.
And see, usually I would say that the solutions of the problems are within the problem itself,
Yeah.
and understanding what is that you've done wrong.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. So that's it. I know we're going to just kind of wrap up. Your information has been here on the screen, and we'll include that below. Thank you for taking your time today, obviously, to chat. And for anyone watching, if you like what you've seen, make sure you subscribe and you follow along at Inspire to Invest podcast. And remember, when you invest in yourself, the sky's the limit. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you, Serena, for having me. And for anyone, visit privatelendingqueen.com, and if you want to get in touch with me.
Great. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Much. Thanks again to our sponsor, Dijon Properties, for bringing us this episode of the Inspired to Invest podcast. The views represented on this podcast are for general information only and does not constitute investment or other professional advice or an offering of security.